where Tosas had said that there was an incident where a man went overseas and he left his young daughter. Okay? So the Shiltas ruled that although she has a father, and although we don't rule like Rav and Shmuel, that we treat her as if she has no father and she can marry herself off rabbinically. That's what the Shiltas ruled. Why? Because although she has a father, because there's a concern that if there's no one to care for her, she may be abused, may be molested. Therefore, rabbinically, we allow her to marry since it's a rabbinic marriage. That was the ruling, the psak of the Shiltas. Getting back to Tosas. O posk Shiltas de Ravachoy, B'ktan Sholach Avil B'Yisayom, She'ichol Iskarish M'Drabonon, Gedin Yisoma She'en Lo Av. We treat as if she's an orphan without a father. Tosas Mem Hayom Beis. The Tiknu Rabbona kiddushin Mishum Hefker. They legislated kiddushin for this girl because a hefker, because she's unattended to. Nobody's there to supervise her. V'zu Sholach Avil B'Yisayom Harei Kiyisoma. This girl who's literally the cool had been abandoned by a father. Father went overseas. She's like an orphan. Mishum Hefker. That's the ruling of the Shiltas. V'Rav Menachem Miyuni Eino Mode Bedover. Rav Menachem Miyuni, he doesn't concur with the Shiltas. He rejects it. Omasim Ira Be'echot Sholach Le'eretz Orchoka. Same thing happened. Person went off to a far off land, V'lo Bas Ketano, and he left over a minor, a daughter. V'niskacha Bas, and the girl entered into marriage, a rabbinical marriage. V'osa Rav Menachem Miyuni L'kaimo. And this Rav Menachem Miyuni, who was the rabbi in that location, he prohibited the husband to retain her. Why? V'omar, he said, Chashinu Shem Yikacheno Avio Lishachi B'mokom Shehu. How do you allow her to be with this husband? Maybe the father, when he was overseas, or wherever he was, he married off the daughter to someone, and if he did this, it's a Torah marriage. So if we allow the minor to be with this man, it may be the equivalent of adultery. Ernie, what's your shaking out? He may have married his daughter in China. What do you mean you should know? How do you know it? The man's not here. Rav Menachem Miyuni is concerned maybe the father was overseas, he met a special family, and he married his daughter off to that family. Do you know? Wait a second, when I finished. No, nothing. I'm just telling what he says. He's concerned. The reason why he did not allow this girl to remain with her husband, which is rabbinical marriage, because maybe the father, when he was overseas, he may have married her off to someone. Okay? Wait 1 second. So if that's the case, if we allow this man to be with the girl, he's violating the laws of adultery. That's what Menachem Miyuni ruled. So Rabbeinu Tam sent him a letter saying, what happens if the father should pass away overseas? Never comes back. We should never allow the girl to remarry. Why? Shema Kicho Avi B'Nisayam. Maybe the father married to someone overseas and we're not aware of this. So this girl should never be permitted to remarry or to marry. And we're not aware to who did he marry her. So just as you're concerned now, even without her marrying, if the father, even if now she's an adult, we should not allow her to remarry. To get married, because maybe when she was a minor, the father was overseas, he may have married off to someone. He's the Makadi. He's the daughter. The father is the daughter. If actually we know a father accepted money on behalf of his daughter to marry off, she's definitely married. Rav Menachem Miyuni says, we're concerned maybe that's what happened. So how do we allow this to take place? Maybe it happened. So Rabbi Tam says, if that's the case, let's say she doesn't marry or she doesn't enter into a rabbinic marriage. He leaves when she's a minor, now she's an adult. She's 20 years old. How do we allow the 20-year-old girl to marry Maybe her father, when he was overseas, he chose a husband for her. And he married her to that man. If that's the case, she's Neshes Ish. She's a married woman. This is where Rabbeinu Tam, why he says it's not something to be concerned about. But why aren't we concerned? The answer is simple. We have a principle of chazokah. There's a presumed status. Before the father went overseas, what was her status? She was not married. No, not minor. She was not married. Right? When she was born, she wasn't married. So until you know there's a change of status, even though you say maybe, you follow presumed status. Presumed status, she's single. So just as if he would die, you follow presumed status, now when she enters into a rabbinic marriage, you say, but maybe the father. It's irrelevant, maybe the father. It's not to be concerned about. You have the same presumed status as you have after he dies. You have the same presumed status at this moment. Okay? This is Rabbeinu Tam's, why he rejected the concern of Rab Nachum Yuni. The Heishav Rabbeinu Menachem. So Rabbeinu Menachem, he responded, right? Meaning it's an obvious flaw in his concern, because what would be if he would die? How do we allow it to remarry? The Heishav Rabbeinu Menachem delolo cheshinon shemi yikadesh. He says we're not concerned. If let's say he never returned, he died, we allow it to remarry. We will allow it to marry. Why? Because shemi yikadesh aminu shemi kiddush lo aminu. The Chagav Dom Perikol Aget says this, we have to understand. The Gemara says, what would be, she's a minor today, and maybe the father will marry her. Did the father marry her? We're not concerned he married her. But he may marry her. That's a possibility. What's the concept of presumed status? We have a question of presumed status. Did her status change or did not change? Correct? So Chazako says, just as it was, whatever it was until now, that's where it is. But what about, could Chazako, what was yesterday, tell me what's going to be tomorrow? Chazako cannot tell me what's going to be tomorrow. Let me give you a case, interesting case. There's a halacha, a woman who's a nida. She's not permitted to her husband. Okay? What happens if a woman menstruates on a certain day of the month? Okay, certain day of the month, let's say on the 15th day of the month. And she menstruates 3 consecutive months on the 15th day of the month. Anything which repeats itself 3 times is considered a chazokah. That's considered, it's established a pattern. So now 3 consecutive months she menstruates on the 15th of the month, the 4th month comes. She hasn't yet menstruated. And let's say she menstruated at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or 1 o'clock at night, right? 1 o'clock in the morning. So you'd say 1 o'clock, he's definitely not permitted to cohabit with her, right? To engage with her. Because she already, 3 months, consecutive months, at 1 o'clock in the morning, she menstruated. Right? What about after sundown, before that 1 o'clock period in the morning? Is she permitted to her husband? Because chazokah is only exactly 1 o'clock in the morning. What about pre-1 or post-1? Right? Do we allow the husband to be with his wife? So there's, based on a pasuk, it's called Ona Somoch Levest. That the 12-hour period, which you find that period, pre or post, she's off limits. She's not permitted. So there's a question, and it's based on a pasuk. So there's a question whether that pasuk is a doraisa or it's only what we call asmachta. Is it a Torah interpretation or it's rabbinical? So there's a Ra'ah. Ra'ah was the Rebbe of the Ramban. He says it's a doraisa. Why? So he says, but there's a chazokah. Exactly, if we establish the pattern, she menstruated at 1 o'clock. Okay? 1 o'clock. Chazokah has no relevance to 1 o'clock because the pattern says she's meant to menstruate at 1 o'clock. But what about, let's say, she didn't menstruate at 1. But what about post 1 in the morning? Could Chazokah tell me, I'll give you an example. Let's say a woman, the halacha is that a woman, on the day that she's meant to menstruate, she didn't menstruate, and she did not check herself. She's supposed to do an internal examination to determine whether she menstruated or not. Let's say she did not do it. She didn't do the internal examination. The next day, let's use the 16th day, without checking on a Torah level, is she permitted to her husband? The halacha is she's permitted. Why? Because the question is, did she menstruate? Pre this 15th, she had a chazaka. Correct? Now the 15th comes. To say she won't menstruate, you can't say because she has in the past. Now the 15th passes, we saw nothing. So now we have a question. Did her original status of a non-menstruant, did it change? Chazaka says it didn't change. Unless you know what changed, it didn't change. Correct? To have relations on the 15th, she's not permitted because she may menstruate. Chazaka can only tell me something. Was there a change of the past? Did the status of the past change? Chazaka says it didn't change. But could it tell me it won't change? Can't tell me it won't change. She may menstruate. In the past she menstruated, she may menstruate. But let's now you're on the 16th. So the 16th is no pattern. But I have a question now, did she menstruate on the 15th? Chazaka tells me she didn't menstruate. Because that happened already. To say something won't happen, Chazaka can't tell me what's going to be in the future. Chazaka doesn't tell me the future. But if it's post facto, and we want to, did a change take place, Chazaka says, unless you know the change took place, we say status quo, it retains its original status. You follow what I'm saying? No. But factually, you didn't find blood. You didn't see blood. This time you didn't see blood. So the question, maybe there was. Chazaka says she's supposed to see. She didn't see. And she didn't check. So maybe she saw it and the blood went lost. Right? Maybe when she urinated, she menstruated into the water and it disappeared. Maybe not. It's possible she didn't. So now I have a question, post facto. Was there a change of that original status? Chazaka says there was no change. So therefore she retains a status as a non-menstruant. But on the day itself where she's meant to menstruate, Chazaka can't say you're permitted to engage with her because factually she may menstruate. Right? Chazaka is not a prophet. Chazaka is only after fact. If I have a question, was there a change of status, we go after the presumed status. Okay? So now you have a question. A person was what? A person is not well, he sends a get. It's a Mishnah. He's deathly ill, sends a get with an agent to divorce his wife. And he has no children. What's the halacha if he dies before the get arrives to his wife's hand? So his wife falls to Yibum, to the surviving brother. Now she receives the get. I don't know whether he's still alive. Did he die before the get arrived? Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he died already. Did he die? Did he not die? My question is, and there's no way to verify whether he died or not, is she permitted to remarry after receiving the get? Because if we say he's alive, so she's permitted to remarry. That means when she received the get, the agent represented the husband, although he was deathly ill when he took leave of him. But if he died, she's not permitted. So I have a suffix. It's a suffix d'oraisa. It's a serious question. But since I have what we call a cheskes chai, since when he left the husband was alive, so until you know differently, we say he's still alive. Therefore we say when the get arrived, the get itself is a valid get. Therefore she's permitted to remarry because Chazaka rules that the husband was alive when she received the get. You following? There's no way to check. The man's overseas. You don't know. Let's say he died. Let's say we died. We're not sure when he died. Right? Or with the woman. She checked the next day, but you know something? Maybe she lost the blood. Maybe the reason why when you didn't find blood on the 16th or the 17th is because she took a bath 6 times until she checked finally. So maybe the blood was washed away. So what's the halacha? Is she permitted? Not, she's permitted. Checking, she has to check now. But even if she checked, it doesn't verify anything. There's still a chance that she did menstruate. I'm not concerned because she has a chazaka. Because chazaka there is ruling on something that happened in the past. Did her status change? But to say her status won't change, chazaka can't tell me the future. If you rely on chazaka, even if she did the wrong thing, there's no liability. She did nothing wrong. She did nothing wrong. No, she has to have chalitza. Now that we know this, no, she's still a yavama. No, because we... No, but she... Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Yeah, a piece of non-kosher meat falls into 1,000 pieces of kosher meat. And now the mix... You can't identify. Are you permitted to eat all the meat? Okay, now, let's say 2 pieces fell in, and you ate one of them. You rely on majority. You have more than enough. Now the person comes, he says, I could identify that original piece of meat that fell in. Say, look, I got rove. I have rove. Tosa says, only in a state of question could you rely on majority.
The question is, she ate a piece of meat, and afterwards it was found out that he wasn't kosher.
Person did nothing. No, nothing. But let's say there's another piece of non-kosher meat there, and it could be identified.
She said, what do you matter? How could you be...
No. Yavam has nothing to...
She was the one before she got married.
Chazaka said she's permitted to remarry because you have a right to follow presumed status. This presumption is the husband was alive when you received the get, right? So the get's a get. Now it's been revealed the husband died before she received the get. No, either one. Either one. Whatever the... No. If you're of the opinion that kiddushin, there's a question whether kiddushin if it's tofis in the Yavama, whether you could marry Yavama. The marriage may not even...
That's what I asked. That was the first one I asked. If she relies on
Chazaka means the husband, the get is a get. So there's no yibum, there's no yavam. There is no yavam. If Chazaka says he was live, there's no yavam. But now it's been revealed he died before the get arrived. So if that's the case, she is a yavama. So according to the opinion, there's no tfisas kiddushin. Why can't you rely on Chazaka? You could rely. She had a right to rely on it. It's like you have a right to rely on rove.
But that should be the status.
No, Chazaka is, if you're in doubt, there's no way to verify something. You have a right to rely on Chazaka. But later it comes to light that it was incorrect. So that's fact. Chazaka is only in a state of sofek. No, she does, because the prohibition is she ate. After you eat, there's no reason to regurgitate the meat, to bring it up. You ate. When you ate the non-kosher meat, you ate it in a context of permitted. There, she doesn't have to do tshuva. The Chazaka said you have a right to remarry. Not a problem.
So she remarried.
But now.
And now what happened when they found out that he was...
Now she needs chalitza. So according to there's an opinion that says that if you marry a Yavama, the marriage doesn't take effect.
So she's not,
It's not adultery, but the marriage is not a marriage.
she's not married.
She's not married. And now the surviving brother, he has a choice now. Either does Yibum or he gives her the release. He gives her the release to make her remarry her.
Even though they went through kiddushin and the Nisuin, the second marriage, everything.
What difference does it make? But she was a Yavama. If you're of the opinion kiddushin does not take effect in the Yavama, the marriage is nothing. So then it is. So the man gives her just chalitza. Just gives her chalitza. Finish. She stays married. She stays married to the man who married her.
And according to the people that not focused,
She was never married to him.
if
It's
she has children,
they're kosher children. They're kosher. They're not illegitimate children. They're not illegitimate. No. Right.
So we talked about this subject in the past where someone sends a shliach to find a husband or wife for someone. That shliach dies. And we don't know where that person
No,
is.
because it's different. There it's different.
There's chazaka that-
No, because there he sent specifically to find a husband.
Right.
Here the question, maybe the husband married her. The husband didn't say, the father didn't say, I'm going to find a husband for my daughter. Maybe, we're saying now, maybe the father married her off to someone.
So I understand.
If the father said, I'm going to find a husband for her,
Yeah.
and then the man dies, he may have found a husband. Because that was the purpose of his going there, or he was going to do that. And now he dies, so we don't know. Then that's a question. That's called a reisa. That's a reisa in the chazaka. Because there's reason us to be concerned that her status has been changed. But here we're saying maybe. I'll give you an example. You have a mikveh has to be 40 so. Right? It has to have a certain minimum volume of water to be valid. It hasn't been measured in a month. Do you have to measure it before you immerse yourself in it? You don't have to measure it. You don't have to measure it. Because you have a right to say, presumed status. A month ago it had a sufficient amount of water. You have a right to say it still. As he comes out, you measure it, it's missing 3 gallons. So that means when he went in, it's missing an ounce. So it may have evaporated or maybe 6 other people went in and they took out a little bit of water. So what does that say? Until now, the presumption was that the mikveh was effective. Now it's been revealed that he was tovel in a mikveh that was not effective. It wasn't a valid mikveh. So the tefillah what? Retroactively what? Because he didn't know, therefore it's valid tefillah. It's been revealed the mikveh wasn't kosher. Because there wasn't a sufficient amount of water. So of course he has to go find himself another mikveh and be tovel again. There's no question. He has to spit it out, of course, yes. Definitely. There's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch. You have bittul b'shishim. Min beino mino. Milk and meat. And you put it in your mouth, and all of a sudden you realize, because shishim is we presume 60 is a sufficient degree of dilution that you're not going to taste it. This man, for some reason, it had a certain intensity of taste, and he tastes it. So the halacha is he has to spit it out immediately. He had a right to put it in his mouth. He did nothing by putting it in his mouth because he fully has a right to rely on shishim. But once he puts it in his mouth and he senses, he tastes what's intermingled, he has to spit it out immediately. He's not permitted to leave it in his mouth.
So in the case of two agents come and say that the woman's husband, they saw him die. So she's looking.
She remarries.
She remarries and then she comes back.
So then, of course, the marriage is...
So the marriage is a no.
But and if she had children, then mamzerim. No, she could marry him. She could marry him. If the husband now, let's say, the husband who comes to light now dies.
Right.
The husband who married her, which he wasn't permitted, he was permitted, he could marry her. Could marry her.
And the children are not mamzerim.
The kids, if the children were born, of course they're mamzerim.
Because it's a fact.
It's a fact. Factually, she was a married woman. The Torah says children that are born from a married woman are mamzerim, are illegitimate. Let's say the husband, the first husband dies now. The second husband, who was not a husband, could marry her. Because he did nothing wrong when he married her originally. Because witnesses said the husband died. He had a right fully to rely on those witnesses. He did nothing wrong. He doesn't even have to do tshuva. Doesn't have to do tshuva. But factually, the kids are illegitimate. Because since the children were born from one who was married to another man, that's illegitimate. Sure, 100%, mamzerim. Because factually, they were born from a woman who was married to another man. The Torah says that if a woman conceives a child from another man and she's married to someone else, the children are mamzerim. That's what Torah says. Does he have liability? He has no liability. He did nothing wrong. He had a right to rely on the ruling or on the witnesses. But factually, it's two different things. Did you do the wrong thing? You did the right thing. But factually, who were the children conceived from? From somebody else's wife. Factually, she was married to another man. Halachically, you had a right to marry the woman because witnesses said that her husband died.
So that doesn't change the fact.
Just doesn't change the fact. They're two different concepts.
The facts are the facts, even though the halacha was different.
Right. It has nothing to do with it. Halacha is how are you permitted to conduct yourself in a certain manner? Definitely. Because the witnesses. But if later it's revealed that the witnesses lied, it's factually you were married to a married woman, so the children are mamzerim or illegitimate. It's simple. It's not simple. This whole idea with evidence, this came up after the World Trade Center. Elyashiv ruled that DNA is sufficient, 100%. It's even better than witnesses, DNA testing. If you find remains of a person and the DNA says it's that person, it's like you have witnesses saying the man is no longer alive and his wife is permitted to remarry. That was Rebbe Yoshev's psak.
Let's say he was alive. Let's say afterwards they found him alive.
That's like witnesses.
What?
She's still married to her original husband. There's no question. But the man... No, Bezdin can't end the marriage. No, that doesn't change. Could a Bezdin rule something not kosher is kosher? It's not kosher, it's not kosher. A married woman is a married woman. We're not talking about they annul the marriage. It's not retroactively the marriage is annulled. They're only verifying fact. Fact is saying he died. Factually, it's real. Let me ask you, the Torah speaks about parel and dover. The Sanhedrin rules that a certain type of fat is kosher fat. Later, they realized they made a mistake. They made a mistake, and many Jews, followed the ruling of the court, of the Bezdin. The majority of clothes of the court has to bring a parel and dover, an atonement, because they made a mistake. Because factually, they ate not kosher fat. So they need an atonement there. If they choose to annul. But these contexts is not a basis for annulment. Faulty testimony. No, definitely not. The Gemara says no. No. The only time they annul a marriage is the case where it's spoken specifically in the Gemara, where it's a question of an aguna. So they rely on a certain degree of evidence, like a single witness. Normally, a single witness is not sufficient evidence. But in the case where she'll be an aguna and she herself will do her own checking to make sure he died because of the consequences, they say that's sufficient. If that's the case, we'll know the marriage retroactively. Under normal circumstances, we don't know the marriage. But you need evidence. Without evidence, they don't annul the marriage for aguna. You need some degree of evidence. An eid echad is the evidence.
So there's DNA would be evidence.
To the DNA is better than two witnesses. It's better.
So
Because
would they annul the marriage?
they don't have to annul. He's dead. What do you have to annul the marriage?
Well,
She's a widow.
When you have one witness.
You don't need. If there's DNA, he's dead. It's been proven unequivocally the man's no longer alive.
You need to have one witness also.
If one witness say, I witnessed it, it's not simple. One witness in the state of war is not sufficient. You understand? It has to be a tranquil period. If it's not a tranquil period, a single witness is not believed. Because a single witness, you have to have two people to corroborate the evidence.
Right.
A person says, I saw something, he may have not died. But you presumed in that setting, there's no way he could have survived. So therefore, the testimony of the single witness is not sufficient. It's not accurate enough. A man says, I was at a person's funeral, and I saw him, he was dead, and they put him in the ground. That's sufficient. There's no reason to say it wasn't accurate. He's testifying accurately. Right? But if there's a setting like the World Trade Center, or it's a state of war, he may have been wounded, but you said, well, because it was mortal. It was a mortal wound. There's no way he could have survived it. Maybe he did survive it.
Wouldn't it make sense to do something like that, I guess, the World Trade Center, because just to prevent mamzerim?
They don't do things to prevent mamzerim. You need a degree of evidence.
Well, there's some degree.
No, but they never annul a marriage for the sake of not to prevent mamzerim, prevent the legitimacy. They do it if there's a degree of evidence, although it's not sufficient evidence. So the woman should not be a chained woman for the rest of her life, bound. They will annul that marriage. But you have to have minimally a certain degree of evidence. Evidence is even a single witness, although a single witness is not sufficient on the Torah level.
So in this case, a single witness is better than two witnesses in terms of children, because the single witness, children would not have been mamzerim because the marriage is annulled if there was a mistake.
No, by single witness, they don't annul it. If the husband turns up, they don't know the marriage. It's a conditional annulment. It's a conditional annulment. So therefore, factually, they're going to be children, and the husband, the kids are mamzerim, are definitely illegitimate. That's that. Because we say, in reality, a single witness is not sufficient. But a woman, understanding the seriousness of the consequences, she'll do a checking, which is very thorough. I always tell this story with Moshe Feinstein. Moshe Feinstein was such a gentle person. And it was after the war. This woman comes to the United States, and she remarried, and she said, after the war in the DP camp, there was a great Talmud Chacham, and he ruled that she was permitted to get married. And she even quoted his name. And she married. This was in the late 40s. In the 60s, her husband comes from Rio de Janeiro. The husband's alive. She's been married to this man for 20 years, more than 20 years. She has a family, and it's not good news. So who do you go to? You go to Moshe Feinstein. He's the posek ador. He's the leading decider of the generation. So Moshe says, how did you do it? She says, well, this certain rabbi who was in the DP camp, and she mentioned his name. He said, I'm permitted. Changing the reality the kids are illegitimate, that you can't change. But she wanted to somehow vindicate herself. So he said, she said the rabbi, and if that rabbi gave the ruling, there's not even a question. So when she told him the rabbi said it, he says, you're a liar. And he said it with such force, which was totally out of character to Moshe Feinstein to speak this way. And she broke down crying. She admitted she lied. So they asked Moshe, how did you know she was lying? So he said, because that rabbi was such a tzaddik, Hashem would not allow such a tragedy to come through him, that he should give such a faulty ruling. Therefore, I knew it was an impossibility. That's what Moshe said. Therefore, I knew she was lying. There was a similar story with the Satmar Rav, where same thing happened. So the woman says to him, I had a ruling from a certain rabbi. So she she asked the woman, when the rabbi gave you the ruling, did he tell you to go to the Aron Kodesh and to hold on to the curtain and shake the curtain? She said, yes. He said, then you're a liar. Okay? Now so it revealed that she made up the story. Okay. It doesn't make a difference. You want to, this is purely, doesn't change her reality, but in terms of her saving face, that was the question. No, it's interesting. Before Rabbi Yosef Zev Tzadok Levrocha, until right after World War II, he was like a concealed person. He always studied himself, very quiet, didn't interact. He learned in the Kollel with the top Talmidei Chacham in Israel, but he didn't speak much. And after the war, there was all kinds of questions. Women came to Israel, and they were previously married. They had a rule: are they permitted to remarry? So Rav Herzog was the chief rabbi of Israel at the time, Rav Herzog, Rav Yitzchak Herzog, and he was a tremendous Talmud Chacham, and he himself, this wasn't his area of expertise. He came to this special kollel in Yerushalayim, and he started to speak to these people, and it was even too complicated for them. And he sees Rabbi Yosef sitting in the corner. He knew that he was a son-in-law of Rabbi Ari Levin, and he starts speaking to him. All of a sudden, he realizes there's nothing the man doesn't know. And everything is so accurate and clear, and he would come every day and only speak to Rabbi Yosef. And all the basis for every release for the woman to remarry was based on Rabbi Yoshev's psak. To be continued.